Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Hello.
They're a great crowd. They've been so lively and encouraging to everybody. So there's so much to get into with all of you with your individual shows. And just to kind of start as broadly as possible, when this came to you in script form and talking to the showrunner, whatever way it was, can you think of a specific moment when the character that you're playing in this show jumped out to you and said, oh, yes, I need to be this person? And I'll start with you, Uzo, since you're closest.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I think for me, it was the length of phrase on the page. I realized that Paul William Davies, our showrunner and creator, had these very lengthy phrases for her, sentence chunks in which she would speak, and it would always come right after a really small seed of information, and she was able to extrapolate all this information out of it. And that really informed for me the pace with which she speaks, how smart she is. It told me very clearly that despite being in an atmosphere with the country's greatest investigative apparatus, she was steps and miles ahead of them. And so she was in a room waiting for people to catch up to her.
And was going to go look for some birds and make everybody wait
Yes,
while she goes and looks for some
and
birds.
that she
in the
was
process.
always going to apply her burning experience to her investigative work. And that kind of really, I could hear her voice really clearly in the click that she moved on.
Yeah. I mean, Karen, I know this started with the conversation with you and Mara, you've known for a long time, but can you think of a moment when Dawn came alive for you and jumped out?
Yeah, I think it was, I got the scripts, and in episode 6, Dawn says to another mother, I have a catastrophic parenting style. And I thought, know that. As it relates to this sense of worry and concern and anxiety that she had about her son going out into the world. The show is set in 2018. And when we start the story, we find Dawn in that extraordinary transitional phase that we find ourselves as mothers, where he's about to go out into the world and Dawn becomes the villain in his origin story, as we do once our teenagers hit that age, right, adolescence, and we have to push them, nudge them out the door. And so we find Dawn at the start of this show in that position, but she does have an awareness of who she is and what she's doing. So that was a moment that I was like, oh, I have a gateway into this character.
Justine, was there a gateway moment for you?
Sorry, I just love that catastrophic parenting style. Well, I auditioned for the show, and so I got sent the sides. And I guess when I read it, I just heard her really clearly. Like, I just knew who she was. And then I kind of did a little research on Erin Foster and what her deal was. And she has such a, like an endless well of like online material to draw from, because she's, a public figure in her own right. And so I listened to her podcast and I heard her sister on the podcast, and I was like, I heard this already. Like, when I read it, I heard it. And that was kind of an exciting thing, because I was like, oh, I get her before I got her. Mm-hmm. And that was exciting. I was like, I can do this. I heard her already. I can do this. Yeah.
Susan, how about you?
I came to the script while I was working on a play in London. And my team had sent it to me, and they said, take a look at this, Shondaland script, see if how you feel about it. And they called me at like 7:54. By like 8:06, I was like, I feel good. I'm straight. I think I'm her. And I got through 15 pages of it. I'm not even going to lie to you. And I was like, who is writing this? Who is writing this? It's so powerful. Jumping off the page, so I'm reading it. And a big tell for me, and I don't know if this resonates for you ladies too, but when I read something and it's playing in my mind like a movie. Like I feel like as I'm reading it, I'm watching it. And that's how I felt with Jasmine. I felt like her eyes were like picture windows, and I was the kid going like this inside her eyes, watching what was happening. And I didn't know how to play her. I didn't know, but I just knew I wanted to. And so the exploration of her actually came on set and with help and, you know, all the things. But I felt very drawn to her for whatever reason. I was like, if I could help this woman come to life, then I want to be that person. I felt like an advocate for whomever she was going to be. Yeah.
For both of you on The Residents, I mean, you were saying Cordelia Cupp speaks in these long monologues, but the whole tone is very specific. It's this comic tone. It's the whole thing is fast. There's so many characters. So for both of you, like, what kind of learning curve is that? How do you get the rhythms and the mood of The Residents in you so that you can walk and talk through those White House hallways and make it all look very natural?
Oh.
No small task.
I said, I'll let Uzo do it.
I think first and foremost, you know, acquainting yourself with all the pieces. Paul designed something like a mosaic, that it had been created and then smashed and then the pieces sort of put together. So I think for me, understanding how each of the pieces fit, and he was really insistent from the beginning about saying how every word is important, not just from the typical sort of preciousness of the writer, you know, sort of every word is important, but precious because from the lawyerly, you know, side of him, he's an attorney by trade. And so he was saying every word is specific here because it actually solves the case. It's if you were to present this in a court of law, this is the evidence that would support why X person is guilty. And so I think reading it, you know, when you go through some of the doubling back and hearing a story told 3 different ways, it became essential to really have that storytelling. I would say for me, really, I started focusing more on the other characters speaking than my own speaking, because she solves the case. So I have to really know, and she's great at her job, and I'm not really a detective, so I have to really be able to know what they're saying well, to be able in each scene, each interrogation scene, to really know what things buttress up against somebody else's words and support or challenge what they're saying. So that sort of played into that. And then there was a really, you could hear the rhythm. I don't know, Susan, you could hear the rhythm in the script, I think, that just sort of very strongly guided you to how she speaks, how she hears, how everybody speaks, how they hear, in a very precise way to me.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be transparent with y'all. I could hear the tone for everyone else's character but mine. I was like, oh my God, that person is so, that happens. Everybody was so strong, and everybody stepped into their role so powerfully. And one of the beautiful things about working on this show is being in a group scene, because you're like, I don't know, you feel a little bit like you're on SNL or something, and you're watching all these people be funny and all this. But with Jasmine, I didn't immediately get her rhythm. You know what I mean? I wasn't quite sure. And then I had to really understand who she was and what her place was in all of this. And once I understood, so much of her is very much like what a chief usher would be. It's like you're in the room, but you're trying not to be in the room. You're there, you know everything, but you can't say you know everything, and you're not supposed to know nothing, so don't say nothing. And like, so I had to get that whole thing. And once that started being in my body, that started to shape her tone. And I understood then, okay, everybody has, their different pieces to be, and I understood where she was in the piece of the whole. But it took me a minute. So I got there, but
You did.
There's something very appealing about the show, the idea of being the chief usher and knowing everything and having every right move. And I guess that's, when you're an actor, you get to become those people and see what it's like to know everything. What a concept.
that's right.
Yeah. Karen, on Forever, there's this interesting balance of, there's realism. It's a real story, based on this real time, but there's this kind of like fantasy, like love story aspect to it. There's, supporting the young love, like the parents who kind of sometimes have all the right answers, not always. That's what makes it a complex thing. Like, how does that how do you figure out that tone and, the world of Mara, who you know so well, but also, the specific tone of Forever and how this world works?
That's sort of, I think, similar to what Uzo and Sue were saying, it is really listening. A lot of it is listening to your fellow actors, reading the scripts, listen to what the directors are saying. I think a lot of being an actor is being a vessel, being an observer, being a scientist even of human behavior and life and relationships, being an observer of what emotions come up in you, really. And that is where you bring the character, the soul of the character, authentically to set. And almost automatically, I think if you're working with a writer who's a woman, and you can go back in Mara Brock Akil's work and see the great love and care she has for her characters, you almost immediately fall into the tone. I mean, there is something about the gaze of a Black woman on the Black family, gaze of a woman on family, period. I mean, I'm talking about Mara, but I also could be talking about Greta Gerwig, or I could also be talking about Ava DuVernay. There's just something about it where you start to, feel the tone, feel the rhythm, almost inherently, the emotion in the words, right? Because as women, we are tapped in that way. And so it was very natural for me.
Yeah. Well, Justine, you're saying that you had this wealth of audio of, the inspiration for your character, Sarah, but then you're not trying to play her exactly. So you're not trying to do a mimicry of her. So how do you find your own room within that of this really, Erin Foster's very well-established world and her voice, and then make something of your own within that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the writing, it always comes back to the writing. So I kind of just followed my intuition with what the writing provided. And what I got from Sarah was kind of like a tone and the way she moves her fingers and the way she dresses. Like for my screen test, I scrolled through her Instagram and put together an outfit from what I had seen. And one of her outfits went out and got it. And so she kind of created the structure or the beams. And then I kind of let just intuition and the writing and my relationship with Kristen, what we found when we were rehearsing, what we found in the screen test, what we found. She slid into my DMs after I got the job and was like, want to go on a hike? And it was really helpful because it helped us kind of earn a rapport with each other and figure out what the chemistry was that we inherently had, and kind of helped us kind of use that as a bouncing off point for where we went from there. So it was kind of an amalgamation of a bunch of things, and it was really fun.
Yeah, that's something I'd love to know from all of you is that chemistry building experience. I think we hear a lot about it, and we think we can tell when people have good chemistry, but the actual building of it, like taking the time or going on a hike or having a meeting or probably just being thrown on set together one day in front of a camera, you don't always have time for it. So what have you all learned about that process of building chemistry with the co-stars who you really have to rely on for that?
I feel like it's what you came back, what you guys said. I think it's a lot of listening, just being there with someone. There's inherently chemistry, just like me and you, there's chemistry right now. There's things that come up, and then you have this script that kind of guides you through and shapes that chemistry. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think as actors, especially, I know Uzo and Susan from theater work. In theater, you kind of have to have instant intimacy. Suddenly you're in the bed with something. You know what I mean? And it is that sense of openness. Openness. But it's also really about being playful. I think of acting as the best playground I've ever been on, with the best costumes and, props. And
Never gonna get off them swings.
you never want to get off the swings. Right, exactly. It's that allowing yourself to be open and handing yourself over in a playful way to that chemistry and how that opens up in you.
I think that's so good. I feel like it's such a blessing to get like a very open partner in a scene, and I can testify to that, being with Uzo, like, my gosh, one of the most giving and talented. It's real because, in all honesty, it just makes your job a lot easier. Like, you're not forcing anything, I love to be in a space where I tell myself, hey, just be open to what this moment is bringing. Like, the words, you know what I'm saying? You've established who the character is. You might find out more about this character than you ever knew if you just drop a lot of any presuppositions and just be in this space and allow that chemistry to create something in that moment that is like new or spontaneous or like, wow, your mind is a little bit blown. And now you're going into the next thing, like, I know more about this because of this chemistry we were able to establish in this other moment. But you have to be available for it and just open. And I think there's even a chemistry with the director you have to have. Can I trust your note? I want to. Give me the note. You know what I'm saying? I want to take it, but I need to know, you know what I'm saying? That chemistry has to be there. How are you coming to me and saying this, and how can I absorb what you're saying, and all of those things. It's so important, but that key word you said was openness. That really jumped.
Don't give me no notes. I don't want any.
No notes? No notes.
I think also the
They
time.
need to know that. You know what I'm saying? So establish that.
I think also the time spent between shots is very useful. I think, like, Susan, look, we had a ball working on our show. Like, it was really, really fun. And a lot of the time in cast chairs, just talking, or even, somebody's flying in to hang a different light and we're in the game room talking about whatever we're talking about, and just, catching up and connecting. And you start to find that openness because everybody's doing a little bit of a share, a little bit of a share, a little bit of share, and suddenly you are a little bit more familiar with one another. So then when that playfulness, sort of the opportunity for the space for that to come in, is there for it to happen. I also think there is something to also personally an inviting environment, an environment where you feel invited in, an environment that makes you feel safe and seen, has something to it in terms of allowing for that bonding, that chemistry that you speak of. The shot that they just showed us, Susan, and with our castmates, Ken and Dan, I want to say that was maybe in the first week we were working, something like that. It was in the first week we were working.
First day?
Yeah, and she killed it, first of all, sidebar, totally killed it. And it's like, but also, what an amazing spirit she is, Susan, full stop in general, but also the people whom she was working with, who we love, those guys.
So good.
Amazing. Our dudes, even though we keep calling them the dudes,
call
are
them
amazing.
dudes.
Our dudes are amazing. It's like the space felt good. And that makes you feel good when you come to work.
Yeah. I mean, I really can't get over, every time I look back at the residence, the space that you guys are in. Well, you did not shoot in the actual White House, but it sure feels like it. And I mean, the corridors and the secret entrances and all these things that, as far as I can tell, are completely accurate to what the real thing is. So you're talking about, spending time between shots in the game room. Like, you're in, like, what feels like the White House. Like, that's got to be, like what you're saying, playground. Like, that's got to feel like the best playground for an actor.
Yes, like when we initially came in, you'll have your water and you'll walk onto set and the first couple of days we're like, I'm not gonna put that there, I'm gonna leave it in my basket. Because it's like, this is the White House. Felt like the White House. It genuinely did. And like by the end we're like, so anyway, when you come over, do you want to it's like, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Lay it out. Are you guys gonna be a minute? I'll be in the blue room. I'm gonna take a nap.
It's true. But then for Forever Nobody Wants This, your playground is Los Angeles, which is an entirely different and, like, I think really vital thing. Obviously, both of these shows are coming out in this very interesting time for the city. Not a lot of things are made here anymore. I think both of them are showing aspects of LA that don't always show up on television. And yeah. A huge accomplishment on both shows' part. But I mean, what is that for you guys, where you get to show off this city that doesn't get shown off in that way?
Gosh, isn't it crazy that we're in Hollywood and it's like, oh my gosh, we're so lucky to be shooting in Hollywood. I mean, it was a dream. Personally, it was a dream too, because I was pregnant through the whole show. And so to be able to go home at the end of a day and see my husband and like rest in my house, and it was just dreamy, and it's crazy. And then watching it back, it's just, yeah, it's like I feel nostalgic, especially now after what we've been through in the past few months or this year. It just feels really special to be showcasing LA. And it's amazing how many people have come up to me and said, like, how cool it is to see LA. And then on top of that, to have an LA crew, you know, like I love our crew. Yeah. And they, you know, that was one of the hard realities of being there and getting close to them. And none of them, you know, have things lined up for after this because it's become such a stark environment for shooting. There's not much. So I felt really excited to be doing an LA show, showcasing LA. And I was really excited to hear that they did their show in LA too.
Yep. LA crew right there
Yeah.
too.
It's cool.
Hey, we're all LA people.
Yeah.
I didn't really know how important LA was in our story until I actually saw the show. And a lot of that has to do with the directors of this show. Regina King directed the pilot episode, and Anthony Hemingway and Timby, and of course Mara directed the episode in Martha's Vineyard. But yeah. Yeah. Oh, wait. Oh, someone here. Oh, hi, baby. Oh, hi, baby. Mara Brock Akil, who you guys have already met. But I just really didn't understand how important and how vocal the visuals of what LA is and what it was in 2018, how it appeared in the show until I saw the brushstroke of Anthony Hemingway and Tim B. Banks and Regina King on the visuals of the show. And if you have seen it, you know how beautiful the production values are, how highly they hold that character in esteem in this show. And so, but for me as an actor, it was really about showing the emotional dynamic of going from the Hollywood Hills to Slauson, to Inglewood, to you know, the emotional, which is extraordinary in the work of Michael Cooper and Lovie Simone, and the work you can really see the great longing that they have for each other in the distance between their two homes.
Yeah, and there's beauty in all of them. That's what I love about that is it's finding all these different areas of the city, and they all have their own beauty to them. Karen, you and I were speaking earlier this morning, and you were talking about experiences you had of mentorship on sets from other actors and kind of realizing of getting into a point where you can pass that on to people. And this is a broad question for all of you, but again, things aren't filming in LA the way that they used to. The industry can feel really hard. Like when you were talking to people who are just starting, or when you were either trying to give advice or just encouragement, like what positive things do you want to pass on to people who are starting off? Like what have you learned about how to either mentor or just give people the pep talk that they might need these days?
I think what I have learned the most is the importance of ensemble, of really giving room for other people's process. How someone comes into a character is as unique as their fingerprint. No one is going to do it the same. And to, trust fall into every scene that you come into. I think your work only expands if you allow yourself to really open up to the other person in the scene with you. So,
Yeah. I like the idea of, the name of this was Rebels and Rulebreakers, and I was like, am I? And then I was like, yes, I am. And then I was like, how are you? And I thought to myself, I was like, wow, what would I tell like an up and coming actor if I was sort of like take that as like the title of it? And I think in your heart, how you come into this, there has to be a bit of a rebellion. A bit of a place that says, I don't even know if I see the space for me, but I'm making one. You know what I'm saying? And not being afraid to sort of fully embrace the fullness and beauty of your uniqueness and know there's a necessity for it. Don't worry about trying to be like everybody else. Don't worry about trying to do it a certain way. Like, really hone in on your own superpower and what makes you you. And then, like, ride it till the wheels fall off. You know what I'm saying? Lean into it, because I truly believe we are always searching for you. Like, we're always looking for you. because something about it is so real and so true and so unique. So the idea of if I could know off the jump not to have tried to blend or try to be like, but to keep exploring like this vessel and how it moves through me, I think that would have been the advice that I would have given to myself.
Yeah, I would say the same. And then the other thing that I would say is the thing that helps me sometimes is, I was reading The Alchemist recently, and there's this sentiment of just getting back to following your heart, following the thing that got you here. And I think that's the thing that I turn towards the most when I'm feeling like the instability or the scariness or the spookiness or the overwhelm, is just like going back to, why am I here? I'm following my heart. And that's the only thing that I can really do. It's the only thing that I can really trust. And there's something about using that as an anchor that it just always turns out right. You know what I mean? There's something about being like, I can stand by that. I can stand by the fact that I'm following my heart, which, yeah, is reliable.
Do you feel like you have to step back sometimes and say, okay, where is my heart? Like, because I feel like when you're auditioning and trying to get ahead in something, there's a lot of opportunities to say, like, oh, no, this is what you really want. And then being able to find that compass again.
I think, to be honest, for me personally, I just think about myself as a kid. Like, I really do turn towards, like, you loved this as a kid. You were doing little videos with your brother when you were like 5 years old. Like, he was filming and you were, there's something like reliable about being like, that's been in me since I was like a baby. And like, that's something, So I don't know what it would be for other people, but that visualizing myself at that place when I was a child and being like, that's what I loved even then. There's like, and it's still in there. I think, and I look at my daughter and I'm like, that, what's in you has been in you from like baby right out the gate. Like, it's there. So I don't know.
I love it. And the other plus, I mean, Uzo, do you have any, where's your compass come from when you need it?
Yeah. I think I would say to an up-and-coming actor to listen, but also trust. You will find yourself in the most unique moments where somebody can offer you a space of wisdom that you should sit and listen and take that in and know that maybe they've only gone 5 steps ahead of you, they're halfway around the block, they've done the whole marathon, and they might have something to impart worth listening to. And you take that in, and then I think there's simultaneously another hand where some people might tell you something, and you have to know what your heart is, know who you are supremely, and trust that that person is enough. And bet on that person every time. Every single time. And somebody might be giving you advice because it was hard for them to go that route, but hard is not the same as impossible. So just because it's different, your seasoning might be different, trust it, because somebody is going to be looking for you.
That's right.
And to always bet on that, but you also need to have some level of intellectual humility as well to be able to meet with somebody who has something to offer and to also listen as well and be wise enough to listen, I guess.
Yeah. I think that's a great place to end this. I want to thank you all so much for being here and for your performances. Thank you to those of you here.
To the left.
Please join us for a reception afterward. And thanks again to all of you for being here.
Thank you
For having us.
That was so nice to listen to you guys.